r/NoSleep. Posted by u/horror_writer_1717. I used to drive a plow truck for a living until the unthinkable happened. There's something I need to confess. It's not a pleasant thing, it's not even easy to believe. I'm still not sure I believe it myself. That's why I wrote this letter. I hate snow. You would think that someone who depends on it for his living would at least learn to tolerate it. Not to mention be grateful that it provides for his financial needs, but I despise it. My job itself isn't so bad. I drive a truck with a big slab of metal bolted to the front, which pushes around untold tons of nasty, disgusting, frozen water. Plowing through the day isn't nearly as bad as at night. Most nights I just drive between the lines and hope for the best. This night was not like most nights. Plowing the secondary roads is the worst. Without lines, it's hard to tell where the middle of the road is and much easier to veer off course. I need to be especially careful near the cemetery just outside of town since the road splits it down the middle. There were already 10 inches on the ground, with another 2 in the forecast. My first pass through was fine, but by the second pass, it was snowing harder, reducing visibility. I didn't see anything jump in front of me but felt the plow shudder. I slowed to a stop, turned on my hazard lights, and got out to assess the damage. I grabbed the shovel off of the truck, just in case. The air was still and cold, but thankfully the snow was letting up. I would at least be able to see if the dumb animal was just hurt or needed to be put down. When I turned the corner, I immediately noticed something large and brown buried in the snow that was piled up in front of the plow. There. That was my first thought, followed closely by, I hope it's dead. Instinctively I lifted my shovel to a defensive position and slowly advanced. As I came closer, something struck me as odd. The pelt didn't look right. Its hair was too short. In fact, it looked like it had been shaved, except the skin was brown instead of pink. I stepped to within a few feet away and prodded it with my shovel, then jumped back, ready to run. It didn't move, so I prodded it again. No movement. I approached again. This time I took the edge of my shovel and tried to roll it out of the snow. It wasn't budging, so I dug some snow out from underneath, keeping a wary eye on the brown lump. After a few minutes, I tried to move it again. This time it rolled easily onto its back, and oh how I wish it hadn't. Shit. I jumped back, fell on the slippery road, and still backed away as fast as I could. I sat there for what seemed like an eternity, staring at it, mind reeling, in shock. How long it took me to come around, I don't know. I stood and forced myself back toward the plow. Fear coursed through me as I approached and looked down at the human hand that was sticking up out of the snow. I reached down and felt for a pulse. The wrist was cold and I felt no blood pumping through it. Fuck me. Manslaughter, murder, death by plow. These things raced through my mind as I pictured my life as a giant toilet that I had just flushed. I carefully dug out where the head should have been and found him to be a man in his 60s. His face was rather torn up, but I attributed that to being dragged 30 feet by a snowplow. His brown suit was also worse for wear. There was a dent in his forehead that looked like it was the same size as the corner of the plow. Damn it, damn it, damn it. I threw the shovel down and started pacing. What to do, what to do? Thoughts of early retirement instantly evaporated, replaced by the dread of a big cellmate named Bubba. In my deepest despair, a thought struck me like a lightning bolt. The clarity and simplicity were frightening. I slowly turned and looked away from the road to the sea of gravestones stretched out before me. A calm spread over me like a warm blanket as I picked up the shovel, covered the body with fresh snow, and went to find my victim a permanent home. I walked only a few feet when a car pulled up beside the plow truck. A large man in uniform stepped out and walked over to me. "Evening, Tom." "Evening, Sheriff. Everything all right?" My mind raced like a hamster on crack. "Yep, just clearing up a little." "What's wrong with the truck?" I hesitated, quickly running through all the things that I could be fixing with a shovel. I had some ice build up in the wheel well. I mentally crossed my fingers, hoping that he wouldn't look in the wheel well, since there wasn't a bit of ice in it or on the ground. "They stuck you with the old beast tonight, huh?" "Yeah, I'm not enough of a suck-up to get the new stuff." "I hear you. It looks like you won't have to worry about it though." "Why not?" I started to sweat. The snows stopped. "Oh, yeah. You okay?" "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" "You're acting odd." "I'm just tired. It's been a long shift." He stared at me. His eyes bored into the back of my skull. In my mind's eye, I could see him drawing his gun in slow motion, cuffing me, and taking me straight to prison. "Well, I hope your shift is over soon. Go home and get some sleep." "That's the plan," I said, smiling. He tipped his hat and started back towards his car. He glanced at the snow in front of the plow, then stopped to take a longer look. I held my breath. He mumbled something to himself, then walked to his car and left. I collapsed against the truck. He knows. Sweat poured down my face. I have to get rid of the body, but where? I did the first thing that came to my mind. I got in the cab and tipped the back of the truck until the salt was about to overflow. Then I went to the front and dug out the body, carried it back, and climbed up into the truck bed with it. I was amazed by the lack of blood around the body but chalked it up to being so cold. Once the body was in, I lowered the bed and the salt covered him up. I took the flashlight and walked back to where I first hit him, to check for blood. I didn't see any, but I did see tracks leading up to the road. Curiosity compelled me like some unseen guide to follow. The tracks led me through the cemetery, past hundreds of headstones. I trudged through nearly foot-deep snow, curious where he had come from. Guilt tugged at me. Not knowing if there was a family waiting for him. If a wife stood looking out through a window, worried sick. I knew that I would find out where he came from, no matter what. And just like that, the tracks ended. I looked all around for more, but there were none, nothing but acres of pristine, unspoiled snow. The only thing near me was an open grave. As I looked at it more closely, I saw dirt that had been thrown on top of the snow. My eyes went wide with realization. I ran back to the truck, stumbling and nearly hitting my head on a tombstone. I climbed into the back of the truck and found a hole where my passenger should have been. Where is he? I was in full panic mode. I climbed out of the back and scanned all around. Each moment I waited for someone to jump out at me and yell, "Gotcha!" I prayed for that to happen. For this nightmare to end with a prankster's smile. But my prayers went unanswered. All that surrounded me were graves and snow. The silence was unnerving. Even the snow had stopped, as if waiting to see what would happen. I suddenly felt very exposed. I jumped in the cab, rolled up the window, and locked the door. After taking a moment to slow my breathing, I put the truck in gear and finished my route, trying to think of anything other than the thing that had crawled out of my truck. After my shift, I went home, locked all my doors and windows, then proceeded to drink heavily. I tried to convince myself it was just a nightmare. I called off sick for a few days, then my boss called and said I'd better come back to work if I wanted to have a job. Every time I drove through that cemetery, I saw it. Sometimes my hallucination was so bad that I actually felt the plow hit something. I didn't stop. My doctor prescribed me an antipsychotic, but it didn't seem to help. Some nights I mowed it down 3 or 4 times. I've reached the end. I can't take it anymore. That's why I wrote this down, to tell my story to whoever wants to know what really happened. In a way, I really hope I'm insane. The alternative is too much for me to deal with.